people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that former WBA bantamweight champion turned super bantamweight contender Shannon Courtenay will be returning to action in March in Liverpool on a Block 1 promotion against an opponent that has yet to be announced that will be broadcasted on DAZN. When last we saw Shannon, she dropped a decision
on a boxer show
to Catherine Ramos over 6 rounds. What was Shannon's first fight in roughly over a year's time. Shannon Courtenay, who sports a professional record of 8 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 3 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 11 professional bouts.
Used to be a Matchroom fighter.
One of the first women boxers that Matchroom signed and led to an alphabet title, that first cluster of girls. Of course, there's Katie Taylor, who got the ball rolling, but there was also Shannon Courtenay, Chantel Cameron, Savannah Marshall, her old buddy April Hunter was also over there for a short while before they both migrated to boxer.
This stable of Valkyries looks a little bit different now. They made some new additions
and subtractions. Shannon Courtenay would be a subtraction. It doesn't look like she has anything to do with Matchroom anymore, and she's boxer bound.
Her ongoing feud with Francesca Hennessy, the young daughter of Mick Hennessy, veteran promoter Mick Hennessy,
who we've talked about a good number of times. This feud between Shannon and Francesca feels manufactured to me. Not manufactured on Francesca's end, but perhaps on Shannon's.
Why?
Well, Shannon said some not so nice things about Francesca, who's only got a handful of fights. She's really just getting started, and she's very young. I think she's 20 or 21 years old. Why would a former champion who's been around the block be so critical of who an unbeaten up-and-comer is fighting? It doesn't make sense unless you were instructed to do so. Instructed to do so to build up a fight between yous.
Instructed to do so by who?
It could have been Ben Shalom, who would be interested in staging that fight on a boxer show to help build up Francesca against a familiar face.
Well, it could have been him, or it could have just been a member of Shannon's team instructing her to do so, to get her name back out there and help her get back in the mix. But either way, it feels manufactured, not genuine. There's just not much reason for somebody like Shannon to take shots at Francesca.
So that when she does, all Francesca can do is respond, reciprocate the energy that Shannon's given her. And if Shannon can win this fight against whoever it is she's fighting, that will service as a prelude, an appetizer to that Francesca Hennessy fight. I would expect to go down later on in the year, as is customary for an unbeaten up-and-comer. As they build up their record and amass more experience, they start to take on former champions, so that one day they'll be ready to take on a current champion. Francesca Hennessy campaigns in the women's super bantamweight division.
It's where Ellie Courtenay reigns as the WBO and IBF unified champion. That's where Nazarena Romero has the WBA, and Yemi Mercado has the WBC. That's where Francesca campaigns. That's where Shannon now campaigns.
Shannon Courtenay, who's fallen far from grace and out of the public eye. She was never really a fan favorite.
I noticed there were people, they really didn't like Shannon.
They didn't take to her, but she is someone familiar. Familiar in the sense that they will at least remember Shannon for her time at Matchroom, her time off that promotion.
It's been abysmal.
Trying to regain some footing, some semblance of traction in her career. She doesn't appear to be going in any particular direction, and I wouldn't give her any odds to beat any champion at 122. She needs to at least be able to prove that she can beat a prospect, an unbeaten up-and-comer in a Francesca Hennessy, and I'm not sure she can do that.
Wow.
It's just being honest. Shannon's been around. She's been around long enough that she shouldn't have to build herself up to a Francesca Hennessy fight.
She should be beyond that.
Men's super bantamweight news. Naoya Inoue to fight in December on a Riyadh season card in Saudi. The rest of Naoya Inoue's year has been tentatively scheduled. the ring has learned that after boxing's undisputed super bantamweight champion defends his titles against Alan Picasso at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas on a June date to be announced, the monster, assuming he beats Picasso, will return to his home country of Japan for another fight against an undetermined opponent sometime in September. If Inoue, 29-0 with 26 KOs, were to emerge victorious and unscathed from the September bout as well, the ring's number 2 pound-for-pound fighter would then make his Riyadh season debut in December against an opponent to be confirmed. One of the possibilities for December is mandatory challenger Muradjan Akhmadaliev. His bout versus Akhmadaliev is one that Turki El Sheikh, owner of the ring and head of Riyadh season, wants to make. The bout in December would mark Inoue's 4th fight of this year if everything goes according to plan.
Though even the most well-laid plans have a habit of falling by the wayside in the sport of boxing, because this is all barring illness, injury, or unforeseen circumstances. We see how the Sam Goodman fight played out.
You mean the one that didn't happen, the one that had several delays.
That's the one.
And how much of Inoue's time was lost on that Sam Goodman fight. Sam Goodman, what was one of his mandatory challengers, MJ Akhmadaliev, still is. 4 ring appearances in 1 calendar year is a lot more than you get from your average boxer, let alone one that's actually worth a lot of money.
I don't mind it though.
Uzbekistan's Akhmadaliev, the ring's number 2 contender in the super bantamweight division, has been calling out Inoue for quite some time. He told the ring during an interview on Monday that he believes the Japanese superstar is quote-unquote ducking him. The left-handed Akhmadaliev, 13-1 with 10 knockouts, is the WBA's interim super bantamweight champion and therefore is mandatory challenger for Inoue, who also holds the Ring Magazine title, IBF, IBO, WBC, and WBO super bantamweight titles. Picasso, 31-0 with 1 draw, 17 knockouts, is the WBC's mandatory challenger, but Akhmadaliev noted that it is the WBA's turn in the sanctioned organization's rotation for mandated 122-pound defenses.
The WBA ordered an immediate rematch between the Philippines' Marlon Tapales and Akhmadaliev after Tapales upset Akhmadaliev by split decision in April of 2023 in San Antonio. Akhmadaliev allowed Tapales to fight Inoue first, on the condition that the winner would face Akhmadaliev in his subsequent bout. Inoue knocked out Tapales in the 10th round of their bout in December of that same year at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo.
Eddie Hearn, who promotes MJ Akhmadaliev, has been laying it on pretty thick,
regularly taking shots at Naoya Inoue, claiming he's ducking MJ and thus he should be removed from the pound-for-pound list.
Inoue is straight ducking MJ Akhmadaliev. He's been ordered to fight him twice, right? He's had 2 gimme fights now instead of fighting Akhmadaliev.
It's not exactly true. He was supposed to be satisfying another one of his mandatory challengers who's ahead of MJ in the rotation. It's not Inoue's fault that Sam has bad luck.
And now, well, tomorrow, no, Monday, the WBA will write to Naoya Inoue and they will say, enough's enough. You have to fight Akhmadaliev next, or you will be stripped of your WBA world title and you will no longer be undisputed. And watch this now. Naoya Inoue will vacate his WBA world title.
You don't think he takes that?
No way. No way. Watch this now. You can play it back if I'm wrong.
He won't be. The Ring Magazine article says it in plain English. Naoya Inoue's next fight is going to be Alan Picasso in America, in Vegas. But he plans on having 2 other fights after that.
And Naoya Inoue is a pound-for-pound great fighter. Amazing. He has ducked Akhmadaliev twice after an order. Now he's getting ordered for a 3rd time, and he will give up his right as undisputed champion rather than make a mandatory defence against Akhmadaliev. Watch.
What does he do if not, though?
He goes and fights somewhere else. He's talking about fighting Picasso in Vegas. Who gives a f***?
Even if MJ isn't next for Naoya Inoue, he does plan on fighting 2 more times before this year is out.
Any one of those 2 other fights could be MJ. Turkey's interested in making the fight, and he knew he just inked a pact with Turkey, so it can happen. Eddie's just being a whiner about it.
Excuse my language. As an undisputed champion and as a world champion, you have an obligation to fight your mandatory contenders. Now, sometimes if it's a no-name, then I understand look at Canelo against William Skull recently. Canelo vacated. That's not, this is the best fight in the division. Tell me a better fight at 122 than Inoue against Akhmadaliev. It doesn't exist. So you're ducking the best fight in the division. And I can't understand it. And I don't even think it's just coming from the team. They don't like the fight.
Why though? Surely he's
fucking serious. Akhmadaliev, you don't understand. He's a serious fighter. He had issues in the Tapales fight. I still think he won the fight anyway. But look at him last time out. This guy, he can punch. He's technically fantastic. Southpaw, can switch. He's got an engine. This Inoue Akhmadaliev is one of the best fights in boxing. And Nair Inoue, you're the undisputed champion, and you're going to no longer be undisputed because you've ducked Akhmadaliev now 3 times. Watch this space. He will vacate the title maybe next week. But in the next 14 to 28 days, Nair Inoue is vacating the WBA title.
This for me just boils down to trust. If Inoue plans on fighting 3-4 times this calendar year, I trust that at least one of those fights is going to be the MJ Akhmadaliev fight. So I'm patient where Team MJ are not. Of course, they want the fight sooner rather than later because they don't want to roll the dice with anybody else.
They rolled the dice with Marlon Tapales, and look what happened. They lost both of their alphabet titles.
So, if in between now and the time that Inoue actually fights this guy, he ends up vacating his WBA title and it goes to MJ, those are going to be very bad optics, though only momentarily, and I'm sure that Inoue's critics will take every opportunity to use that against him up until he actually fights MJ.
They should know better.
They do, but they need something negative to say about Inoue. They don't like foreign fighters. They don't like the idea that Inoue has ascended to heights reserved only for the very best of the best fighters with the kind of marquee value to do things on his own terms and on his own time.
They think he's supposed to do things on theirs, and they're finding out the hard way. That's not how this works.
I want revenge. I want to be winner. I want to win him. But I mean that I lost and I don't like it. I want to win. I want to prove myself that I could win him. I have to be better in all positions. Everything I have to do better. I have to be better Dmitry Bivol than today or yesterday.
That was the first loss of your career. How different was that, Dmitry?
Not too much. Not too much. Of course, I don't like to hear that former world champion or ex-world champion or I have one loss. I don't like it, but I cannot think too much about it. I just don't have time to think about it and to pity myself about it. Just, I don't like it. I want to move forward. Yeah, it happened. Okay, let's close this door, move forward.
He's got the right attitude. He's got the right mindset. Don't dwell on the past. Just learn from it and move forward. Though if he is to exact vengeance on Artur Beterbiev, how exactly does he mean to do it?
Imagining that has been difficult for me. What is it that Dmitry Bivol can change in the rematch to win him the rematch?
Because I don't expect Artur to change very much, if at all. The old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And whatever Artur Beterbiev did in the first fight was enough. And in a very general sense, pressure guys like Artur don't change much from one fight to the next. The pressure he applies on a Marcus Brown is the same as what he applies on a Callum Smith, on an Anthony Yard, on a Dmitry Bivol. He's a relentless force who never had to be terribly different for a specific opponent. He stayed in character his entire career. It's Dmitry that has to change, but what does he change?
Some might argue that he can't spend as much time on his bike like he did in the first fight, just moving around, but moving around, I think, is what kept him in the fight.
That if he didn't move around as much and opened up a bit more, he would have got hit more, and he might have got stopped. He might get stopped in the rematch, if that's what he changes, if that's what he tries.
Very excited for that fight. The real big boys at 175 will be fighting later on this month.
This past weekend, the mandatory challenger for the winner was crowned. That was David Benavidez. Secured a points decision over David Morrell the way I said he would, and after the fight, was asked about boxing either Artur or Dimitri in Saudi, and this is what he said.
Just a refresher.
I feel like it'd sell more here, to be honest with you. That's the one thing they talk about, like Turkey Al-Rashid, and they say, would you ever fight with them over there in Riyadh? But at the end of the day, all my fan base is here in Las Vegas. I'm a Las Vegas fighter, you know what I mean? I would love to go over there and fight, but this is my market right here, and I feel like we're doing really well. We just sold out the T-Mobile Arena, you know what I mean? It's one of my dream come true to me, you know what I mean? And I just want to take advantage of this market because I've worked 11 years to. This is my first time having a freaking crowd like that, so I want to stay here.
I remember in March of last year, David Benavidez himself reached out to Turkey Al-Sheikh to help finance a Canelo Alvarez fight. He wrote him a lengthy paragraph. It's a long read.
But in his own words, he said, "Let's bring the biggest and most exciting fight to Saudi Arabia."
Did you catch that? Do you need to see it again? He said, let's bring the biggest and best fight to Saudi Arabia. This will be the biggest Mexican versus Mexican-American fight in the history of boxing, and where better to do it than the kingdom?
So, when it's for Canelo Alvarez, you're willing to go to Saudi, but when it's for either Artur Beterbiev or Dimitri Bivol, you're not. Why?
I suppose it doesn't really matter who wins on the 22nd, Dimitri or Artur. David has no intention of facing them. Don't you see? It's very obvious.
You were willing to go to Saudi for Canelo, but you're not willing to go for Artur? You're not willing to go for Dimitri? Why?
One is left to wonder if Turkey might not call David Benavidez's bluff and still finance the fight just in America and not Saudi, that if you want it in Vegas so bad, you've got it.
What have you got to say now, hotshot?
You just wonder, because David Benavidez is so obviously using the site of the fight as an obstacle to prevent it from happening.
Which is ridiculous, because unless you're expecting to generate more from that fight in Vegas than Turkey can pay you in Saudi, you don't make any sense.
And that fight does not generate more in Vegas than Turkey can pay them in Saudi.
It doesn't. He's just sandbagging it.
And there's always one or two guys in the comments section get mad at me for pointing stuff like this out, these inconsistencies, and what they really mean, what they really are, being able to decipher,
discern,
and understand whilst sifting through the bullshit to get to the truth. And the truth is, he don't want no parts of the winner of that fight.
All I gotta do is wait for David to prove me right.
So I suppose it doesn't really matter if Artur wins later on this month. Or Dimitri. Doesn't matter to David, he already made up his mind.
It was never about Undisputed.
You never unified nothing in the super middleweight division. You're not about to unify anything now. At light heavyweight, you are on your way out.
Up and away.
Far away from the real threats at light heavyweight.